I had an amazing conversation today with Maura Weis about her family's autism journey. If you're not sure who Maura is, she is the co-founder and chair of Hannah and Friends Family Foundation, which she and her husband, Charlie Weis, retired NFL and college football coach, as well as NFL football radio analyst, has started. Their charity started in 2003 to honor their daughter, Hannah, and all people with special needs. She's active in working at Hannah and Friends with horse therapy. Hannah resides on the land with 13 other friends and enjoys going to day programs every single day. She's really living her best life. They continue spreading the message of awareness and compassion for people with special abilities. Today's a very special episode. We always highlight families who have an autistic individual on the show or autistic individuals themselves. I feel like sharing these journeys makes us better speech therapists, makes us better teachers, better behavior analysts. I'm excited for you to hear all about Hannah's journey from Maura, and this is a wonderful episode. Let's dig on in.
You're listening to Autism Outreach Podcast, a podcast full of ready-to-use strategies to help those with autism strengthen their communication skills. Here's your host, Rose Griffin of ABA Speech, a speech therapist and board-certified behavior analyst who shares tips you can use in your next therapy session.
Welcome to the Autism Outreach Podcast. We have a great show for you today. Today we have with us Maura Weis. Thank you so much for coming on to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm honored.
I'm excited to have you on. And I was telling you before I pressed record that I think I saw a show about your family on ESPN or one of the news channels about your journey into autism. And I know you're going to share a bit about that with us and have written a book and all this great stuff. But I love to have parents on the show because I feel like it helps us as speech therapists and BCBAs and whoever's listening just be better interventionists, be better practitioners. And so thanks for coming on. So those of us that are new to you, can you tell us just a little bit about you kind of in general and then about your journey into the autism world?
Of course, yeah. So I live in Florida now, and Hannah actually lives in Indiana. It's in a community that we built with some homes, and there's 13 residents, and we do day programs, and we do day camp, and we do all fun things, after school things for the kids. I call them kids, adults. And the whole experience has been great. But me personally, I'm an equestrian, so I ride here in Wellington, and I love dogs. I have dogs. Those are my passions. But first are people with what I call special abilities.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. And so do you have two children? You have a son and a daughter?
Yes, I have a son and a daughter, and my son's actually a coordinator at Ole Miss.
Yes.
He's the youngest coordinator. Yeah. So,
yeah.
And Miss
That's
Hannah.
amazing. I watched some of those games during I have two girls and a boy. So I was telling my son who I was interviewing today. But for those of us that don't, your husband's Charlie Weis, who was the coach at Notre Dame and was also a coach in the NFL. So very cool. Sure. There's a lot of fun experiences to share there too. So you had your son, is he older? And then then Hannah's younger?
Yes. Charlie's now 30 and Hannah is actually going to be Charlie's going to be 31 and Hannah's going to be 29.
Oh my goodness.
I cannot believe Hannah's going to be 29.
Oh my goodness. Amazing. So tell us a little bit about your journey. So did you, and I know you have written a book called Miles From The Sideline. Did you notice that because you had your son and he was typically developing, and then when you had Hannah, what did you notice? Like what signs of autism, or when did you think maybe she needed some support or that maybe she had a diagnosis of autism?
Yeah. So, when Hannah was born, she also had to have a kidney removed at 2 months old. So we didn't even think she was going to make it. They told her she had polycystic kidney disease and she was going to pretty much pass on after a day or two after she was born.
Oh my goodness.
They offered a late-term abortion, which I refused because I just felt like she was, kicking in there, and I just didn't, And I wanted to give her a shot at possibly making it. You know?
Right.
Maybe they're wrong. And so she was born, and then she had the kidney removed, and she actually was developing very typically until she was about 18 months old.
Yeah.
She wasn't talking, and she really didn't do a lot of those raspberry things that they said my son was do. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the talking wasn't there. And that really kind of freaked me out because my son was talking and everyone's like, well, the second child always is late and it'll happen. But there was an alarm going off in my head.
Yeah.
And I was watching it very carefully. And so then we actually, because Charlie was a coach, we were in New England. We moved and we moved to Long Island. And within that change, there was a whole nother child. Yeah. She was only into it. She was into herself. She had her own little world. There was no, the sensory was like through the roof. This little doll I gave her with lights on it, like completely freaked her out. And I honestly, I was just didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to go. And so I sent her, I thought, you know what, maybe she just needs to be with other kids. So I put her in a preschool when my son was going to kindergarten there. Yeah. And when I went to pick her up, I was early and a nervous wreck because I knew something was really not right. And the teachers came out and they wanted to know if Hannah was deaf. They said, we are talking to her. She's not answering us. And they recommended I go to a pediatrician. So I did go to a pediatrician for her to get checked into school. Yeah. When I went back to the pediatrician and I asked him about autism the first time I went to see him.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm back now 2 weeks later and I mentioned that the teachers had said that she might be deaf. And I said, now, I never noticed that. I didn't think that. I said, but something's going on. And I did ask you if it was autism and you said no, but I'm just not sure. Right. And then he was like, then he changed his tune and he said, yes, she could have autism. And then the state comes in and they check them out. They brought someone in. They did do a test where she didn't answer, like when they were ringing things near her ears. So we brought her to a hearing doctor who he actually said she had a hearing problem because she had wax in her ears and needed tubes. Yeah. And she did have a lot of ear infections. So we had that done. And I thought, this is it. That's the answer. She's going to be okay. Oh, right? Yeah. And so that was not to happen for Hannah. So it just continued on that path. And then we put her into a school there in Long Island where they did the ABA.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that when I had you on there because I'm a BCBA and a speech therapist. So there's less than 525 people in the world that are both. So, okay, we hadn't even talked. I didn't know that was part of her curriculum. Okay. So she was in a specialized program. Okay. And they utilized ABA.
In Long Island.
Okay.
But it was really strict. Okay. Because she was 2 years old and it broke my heart to put her on a bus. I don't want to start crying, but this little person who should have been helping me making cookies and stuff is getting on a bus. So she went to school and she was screaming the whole time she was there. It was really a hard experience for her. Yeah. That for her at the time. So I was like, just hang in there. They were like, this is what we do. Yeah. If they would put like vinegar on her tongue and make her say no, but she wouldn't say it. Oh, yeah, they did some things that
and she's 29, so I feel like the science has come far, so that hopefully they're not doing things like that anymore because that doesn't sound so friendly. And that's really hard. Now it's more naturalistic now, interventions in general, I think. Yeah,
that's good. Because I actually moved to New Jersey because I just felt like that school was not for her.
That was not the right fit. Yeah.
No, it wasn't the right fit. So we moved to New Jersey and then she started in the early intervention program with a great teacher who was awesome with her. And they hit it off and she had a really good experience. She still had a lot of problems. I went to a lot of doctors. In my book, I write about it. I must have went to about 10 neurologists and scans. And I had in my head, I just felt like I could get that child back that was okay.
Right.
It's like I lost that person and I wanted her back. But I was trying to find her, but unfortunately
that's hard where a child is regressing because it feels like just people coming on the podcast will say, well, my child never really, was developing speech, or there's other stories where a child is communicating more and then does have this area of regression. And so that's really hard. And she's 29. So I feel like we talk a lot about autism in girls on the podcast too, because, back in the day when I started presenting 20 years ago, I would say the incidence rate was 1 in 250, and now it's 1 in 36. 1 in 36 people are identified as having autism. And we used to say it's 4 to 1 boys. So there's way more boys, but I don't even use that statistic anymore, because what we found is that sometimes in girls, it's not diagnosed as soon. And there's just different things that it's more of a barrier to diagnose girls. So it's good that that was even on your radar, because I feel like 29 years ago, I feel like not everybody kind of knew as much about autism as we do today.
That's so true. They didn't. It was a whole new world out there.
Right.
And it was a scary world because there wasn't a lot of information, and there were just people that, like we also did the after school program when people came in,
right,
which was very helpful. I had one, there's always these people in your life that are like saints,
right,
like angels that come in, and she came in and she actually got Hannah to go to a mall and do different things. And that was like amazing.
Yeah.
But there wasn't a lot of information. And as it turned out, though, I just want to say that Hannah does have a epilepsy. She had what's called Landau-Kleffner. I'm sure you've heard of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it develops the same way autism does, but she's also got like PDD with that. So, but then we put her on anti-seizure medicine, and that really helped. And she doesn't have them anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me about, so then did she go to, so you moved to a different state, you started in, did she go to a public school, or did she go to a specialized program, or what was her schooling like?
Yes. So at that time, really what was available to us was public school.
Okay. Yeah.
They had the early intervention program. They had the speech therapist.
Yeah.
And so that's where all the kids went there.
Oh, wonderful.
They're real. Yeah.
That's great.
And actually, I thought it was great.
Oh, that's good. I went to public school as well in Akron. Yay. And I've worked in the schools in some capacity. I'm here in Cleveland, Ohio, in a suburb. So I have 3 kids, but I work 2 days a week in my local district here, which is really fun because I get to see my own kids at school. And so it's really fun. Definitely. So I love that. So public school, yay. It can be a great place. Sometimes people think, especially if you have an autistic child, sometimes people think private is better, but when you're in a public school, you get all the, you get fun stuff like the assemblies and the playground and music class. And sometimes in a private school, you have to try to recreate all those things that are just naturally occurring, and peers, like just general peer and community things that come about. So it sounds like, oh, well, that's really exciting. So then tell me about, tell me about your book, Miles From The Sideline. How old was Hannah when you wrote that?
Hannah was about 8 years old. That's when Charlie was the head coach at Notre Dame.
Yeah.
I was approached to write the book. And so it's a very frank book. It's a book about when you discover your child does have autism, PDD, seizure disorders, that it's the things that go on that it really is for people to read that have a family member that has a child with different abilities. And then they can understand what the mom and dad are going through at home, the tantrums. Hannah was tested for Willie Prater at the time.
Oh, yeah.
And the eating things that you just have to watch her 24/7 to make sure nothing goes in her mouth that can hurt her.
Yep.
And being in diapers till she's 9 years old.
Right.
People don't understand what these poor parents are going through and what the poor child's going through, how scary it must be for them. So I thought it was a good book to write and be really frank about, and straighten some strangers out to say, if someone's having a tantrum and the mom's there, just say, if you can't smile or just ask if they need any help, because the mom will definitely say no. Right. To just give them a smile. The mom's going through something.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's good, because the thing, I have an online business, so I'm online every day posting about things, and everyone has a lot of opinions, but I feel bad for parents because parents will ask questions on social media, Instagram, Facebook, and then they ask the wrong thing, or they've upset somebody in some way. Somebody feels so passionately about something, which I understand. We want to support everybody, and it's just really hard. I just feel bad for parents. That's why I like to have parents on to share their journey, and especially parents who, I met this lady on TikTok, and she is a caregiver. Her child has severe autism, classified as severe autism, and he lives in a residential placement, and he's an adult. And she just said, you don't understand what our life is like. And, it's not always warm and fuzzy, like, and I feel like parents kind of get a bad rap for just sharing how it really is. So, I mean, thank you to
Yeah.
that, because I think parents feel alone too. If you don't have a
Yes.
community of support, you feel really isolated. Like, am I the only person that's going through this right now? I'm sure that had to be isolating for you at that time, especially now. I feel like with social media, it's like you can be more connected or less connected. But was that hard too, finding other people that were maybe going through a similar situation?
Yeah, yeah, it was. I mean, I found them mostly through school.
Yeah.
And yeah, and the other thing too is a lot of times your relatives are not very supportive because they don't really want to come visit the home. They want to pat Hannah on the head like she's the dog of the house, the
Right.
pet dog, and be
Yeah.
like, I spent time with Hannah. No, you didn't spend time with Hannah.
Right.
But I did find a lot of support. A lot of support back then was probably very different than it is now. Then it was moms getting together and saying, hey, this diet works. You know what else is great? This, that, or this person's a great speech therapist. So it's more like
Yeah.
that.
Oh, that's good. It's nice to have support. So tell me about Hannah and Friends. I know that you and your husband, Charlie, started Hannah and Friends. I know you talked a little bit about it, but can you just tell us how you got the idea for it, and just tell us more about, what you provide there? And so it's 13 residents, so that's pretty small. So that sounds nice.
It's really nice. I decided to approach Charlie with this because I felt like when I knew early on that Hannah would never be able to be self-sufficient.
Right.
It wasn't going to happen for her. And I finally got out of my bubble of trying to find that person and realizing I got to make her life great.
Right.
And while I'm making her life great, I want to make other people's lives great.
Mm-hmm.
So I developed this idea of getting a development, just like there's an over 50, 55 and older, nursing.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But it's open. There's no gates or anything like that. It's on 40 acres in South Bend. It's absolutely gorgeous. The homes are beautiful.
Wow.
There's a rec center and we do all kinds of activities. And
Nice.
we do, and in the summer, we do a summer camp that's from 9 to 5. So yes, it's really amazing because I remember when Hannah was young, I couldn't find anyone to watch her in the summer. There was nothing. And I was not going to put her in daycare, wouldn't even accept her. So it was just not a matter of that. So these kids have a blast. They are surrounded with their own peers. Mm-hmm. They have people that love them and enjoy them, and they have a lot of fun.
Oh, that sounds
They have a life.
Yeah. Creating a life. I like that. Oh, my sister-in-law actually lives in South Bend. I'll be there I was just there for the holidays. I'm going back. She's getting married in South Bend. So,
oh my God, you have to do that.
Yeah, I know. I want to visit. I'll have to talk to you about that. I'd love to see it. Because I'm like, oh, South Bend. Yeah, I'm there. Okay. So interesting. So there's the 13 residents. Hannah, that's where Hannah lives now. So the summer camp, is that open just to those residents, or you open it up to other kids as well?
Oh yeah, no, it's open to everybody.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's
nice.
Open, and we have it's not a company, but the nonprofit that was running our homes,
yes,
have actually bought it out.
Yes.
So they are running it, but they're kept all of our programs that we created.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and there's also after school that we do, like after school or early morning cooking classes, yoga, dance therapy.
That's nice.
Yeah, basketball for the guys, that kind of thing.
That's nice. And, so for 10 years, I worked in the middle school, high school level, but that was my big thing. And I do a lot of trainings and invited talks on leisure skills for students who have autism, because I feel like that's such an area that's not utilized. Like, we could do yoga. That's a nice lifelong skill. Like, how do we modify some of these things? And I like to work out. So I'll be like, well, let's take a walk around the track, and let's, these are just things that like you said, make a life. Like, these are things that really enrich somebody's life, where they can work on social skills in this way, where they're with their peers. And I always used to joke that I used to say I want to be an aerobics instructor, but so what I would do with the kids, I put on like a meditation YouTube, and then I would just do yoga, standing poses, and then we would do weightlifting with like very light weights. So that was my moment to shine.
Yes.
But that's nice, because those are nice lifelong skills that you're really enriching those lives. Oh, I love that so much. So what is one piece of advice that you have for parents or professionals who are supporting autistic learners?
Okay. I thought about this, and I think this is really true. And I think Hannah, we dragged her all the way across the country. Okay. We were in Florida, we were in Kansas, we were back in South Bend. So she's gone to different schools. She's had different people in her life, different babysitters, different, guardians that help me. And the thing is, do not not let them, even if they do have like meltdowns when they get out, they have to go through that. Not everybody, but a lot of the kids, like Hannah, if Hannah can do it, I think a lot of the kids can do it. Don't baby them in that respect. They need to see different things because someday we're not going to be here.
Yeah.
And
right.
they're going to have to exist and they're going to have to get used to that. So getting them while they're young, used to different sitters, different people is a really good idea. And speech therapy, of course.
Yes, love that. Yay, speech therapy.
Yes.
I think that's so important. When I worked at the Cleveland Clinic here in Cleveland, the Cleveland branch has an autism school called the Learner School, and we would take the kids out every single week to go grocery shopping, which was really always an adventure. And then every single week we'd go on a field trip. So like we go to the zoo, we go to an Indians game, we go to a museum, and it was not easy. Those were, I used to always say, these are the hardest days. And that's when I was in my 20s, but it was true because you want the kids to be out, because I think what happens to people that it just seems that when you have a kid who maybe has some behavioral barriers to accessing the community, as somebody gets older, then it's like their world gets really small, right? Like who they're seeing. And then subsequently, then the parents' lives get smaller and you just feel really isolated, it seems. So I think that's I just love that. I love that advice. That's good advice. So where can people find out more about you and your work?
Okay. If they can go to Amazon, if they want to buy the book, right?
Okay.
So that's it's very inexpensive. It's $11.99 for a paperback.
Okay.
And
nice.
Yeah. And they could, of course, but there's Hannah and Friends website. And there's also the Hannah and Friends Facebook page, which I answer.
Wonderful. Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming onto the show. It's really great to connect.
Yes. And it was really great meeting you. You're doing awesome. That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Autism Outreach. If you enjoyed the show today, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode full of actionable strategies you can use in your therapy room. Write a review too. That would mean so much to me. I always love hearing from you. Have a specific topic that you want included on a future show? Reach out over on Instagram, ABA Speech by Rose, or visit me at www.abaspeech.org.